Okay, the labor reform in 2012 gave companies more flexibility to set wages and working conditions themselves rather than through sector-wide bargaining, which was negotiation with trade unions. Okay, so the author here is contrasting pre-2012, pre-labor reform and post-labor reform. So you'll remember, on the spectrum of political and economic dispositions that we've seen in class, you have the left and you have the right. And the two main parties until now have been PSOE and PP. PP we find more towards the right. So the labor reform they're doing is right-wing, right? They are making it flexible, not for workers, but for the companies. They're giving them more power to do what they want without government interference. Remember, the left has the government involved all the time, right? So, companies can do what they want. What does that mean? If they want to pay their workers less, they can, because the government is not involved. The only laws they have to abide by are the natural laws of supply and demand. So they're hoping that by giving the companies more freedom, maybe they can pay their workers less, maybe they can fire a few workers without losing too much money, and through that, maybe they can survive the crisis as a company to hopefully in the future be able to expand again and hire more workers and create more employment, right? That's the thinking that we have. On the left, we have more protection for the worker, right? So if we talk about this in Marxian terms, if we think back about what we learned about the economy in the beginning, right? We have Marx talking about the haves and the have-nots, right? So they're helping, in this case, they're giving more freedom to the haves and protecting the have-nots more. Okay? So, the sector-wide bargaining is the way that things were done before 2012. And a sector, in this case, is not the primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector. They're more specific industries within those sectors. So you have the education sector, the pharmaceutical sector. It's a pharmaceutical industry, right? And even within that, you have more specific sectors that can negotiate trade agreements through unions or any kind of organization that represents the workers. For example, at this school, we have a convenio colectivo, which is a document that comes out. It's an agreement that represents all the working conditions and the rights of the teachers at private schools in Madrid, right, in the community of Madrid. So, instead of me negotiating with the owners of the school about how much I should be paid, that's already done because they've already come to an agreement. So, at all the schools, everyone makes more or less the same money and has more or less the same rights because they all go along with this collective agreement. Okay? Within that, the big thing that they changed were the severance payments. So a severance payment is when you are unfairly dismissed from a job, okay, which means you are fired or you are laid off, is a nicer way to say it, because the company is losing money, not because you have done anything wrong, but or for some other reason that has nothing to do with you, you have to be dismissed from your job, right? In that case, they have to give you money, depending on how long you've been working there. So, the pre-reform was always 45 days for every year that you have been working at that job. So, 45 days is 45 working days, meaning that if you had been working for a year and you were dismissed, you would be paid 2 months' salary plus 5 days, so 2 months of money, right? To help you kind of survive until you find your next job, right? Because in theory, you didn't do anything wrong. Right? And the labor reform made 3 new kinds, right? Where if you have a kind of better contract, that number goes down from 45 days to 33 days, so making it more affordable for the company to fire you, to dismiss you, right? And even some contracts went down to 20 days, right? Then you also have entrepreneurs contracts that is when you're your own boss, right? So, let's go back to the article. Cut severance payments, indemnizaciones, right? For unfair dismissals, despidos, y protestos. Those changes, buttressed or supported by a deal between unions and employers, tempered, meaning counterbalanced, neutralized wage growth. if you're tempering wage growth, you are lessening the rise in salaries, right? Normally, in a lot of companies, if you've been working there for a long time, you automatically get a raise. Like if you've been there for 5 years, you automatically get 4% more, for example, right? And the author of the article says that that growth in wage had far outstripped gains in productivity. So it was saying that you weren't producing anymore, you were doing the same job that you've been doing for 20 years, but you're making a whole lot more money doing it, right? That if every 5 years they raise your salary 4%, at the end of 20, 25 years, you're making quite a bit more money, but you're not producing anymore. So they're saying it's inefficient, right? So, again, more deals between the unions and the employers to stop those automatic raises, right? Instead of being paid more just for continuing in a job, you might be paid more if you meet some deadline or you meet your objectives, right? You could be paid more for that, but not just because you're there, okay? And in the end, it asks a question. How much credit do they deserve for the upturn in employment? How much can we say was definitely because of the labor reform? It's a little bit unknown. We'll see in the next slide.